Hey everybody, and welcome to the video. I'm here with the lovely Key today, and we are here to talk to you about calls on session. That's right, it's the most asked for, most wanted feature on session, and it's pretty much here. In fact, right as this video has come out, as you're watching this video, the closed beta is currently running for session, which means that if you go and opt into the closed beta right now, you can actually make voice and video calls right now. So Key,
Cool.
it is pretty cool. We've been waiting for a long time. We've been testing it around the office for the last probably month or so.
Yeah.
I would say doing some internal tests, and it is really impressive. It's really smooth, really slick. I think you'll really enjoy the way that it is so far. So one important thing to note about the closed beta is that it's not going to have onion routed calls. We're still working on onion routed calls at the moment and on our Lokinet integration. Instead, we'll be using a peer-to-peer call integration. Can you explain a little bit more about the difference, Key?
Yeah, so essentially when you do a peer-to-peer call, you are exposing your IP address to an extent. So what happens is, each device has an IP address, obviously, and when you're making a peer-to-peer call, you're making a direct connection between you and the other person you're calling's IP address, and the ISP who's in between is actually routing that connection. But what it means for the end user is if I'm calling Alex and Alex doesn't want to be discovered, his course location or his IP address, then in the current system of calls, we would be leaking information to each other. Now, Lokinet, what it's supposed to do, or the idea behind Lokinet, is when we make a call with each other, we will only be exposing our .loki address. So we'll generate a long, I think it's 64 characters or something like that, .loki address, and then I can give that to you programmatically, and you can use that to connect with me. And the only information that's leaked is our .loki address, which we can create a new one, or it's create a new one each time you start up Lokinet. So it's not a long-term identifier that's being leaked, like with the peer-to-peer calls. So that's the basic differentiation between the two.
So it's been a long process, a long road to get here, to bring you calls today. Can you talk about, I guess, some of the big hurdles that we have overcome on that road to get to this point where we've got peer-to-peer calls in the app?
Yeah, I mean, most of it revolved around the WebRTC implementation into the applications. There was definitely a time where we thought we were going to be able to use Signal's implementation of WebRTC voice calls, but once we got into that code, we found that it wasn't going to be suitable for our use case, because some of what we're doing here, we actually want to bring over, hopefully nearly all of what we're doing here we can bring over into Lokinet voice calls once we finish it up. That'll require Lokinet integration, but the calling UI, the way that we transport data using WebRTC should all be very similar. The only differences being that in our current system we use these stun turn servers to work out people's IP addresses and transmit that information to each other. Those will be gone, and everything else will be replaced with .loki addresses. So it was really about building up our own WebRTC implementation inside of the application that took the most time. And then there was a lot of finagling with multi-device, like making sure that when you decline a message on one device, that declined message is synced to the other devices, and then also making sure that all of the settings around calls, that people really understand what the implications are when they turn on video and voice calls, because it is the current way that the session application is everything is private in there. You don't leak your IP address in any way. So if we are going to add a feature to the application where you do have the possibility to leak your IP address, it's really important that we make it known to the user that's going to happen. So that means it's an opt-in feature. You have to turn the feature on, and it gives you a warning as well about when you're going to expose your IP address. And if you get a call from someone and you don't have it enabled, we especially need to make sure that we're declining all of the calls straight away, if it's not enabled on your device. So really both of the users have to be opted in. So those are some of a few of the things that we tackled that took time, I suppose.
So, like you've just sort of mentioned there are some downsides to the peer-to-peer system compared to the onion routing system.
Yes.
So what were, I suppose, some of the key points that led to making the decision to go with peer-to-peer calls first?
I think really the key thing was we knew that this was going to be a step on the way to be able to do onion routed calls. Internally, we always wanted to build it this way, as in, we're going to do a testing version first where everything's on ClearNet and we can just call each other so we can get the user interface all done and ready. And then over time, we're going to add Lokinet integration to the applications, and then we'll be able to do this all onion routed. Now, there was an idea in the office that, what if we just release this testing version that we're using internally for people to use, essentially. And I think there was a turning point where we released a poll out to the community and asked, what would you prefer to have? Would you prefer to wait longer for onion routed voice calls, or would you prefer to have something in the nearer term that is, a bit, it doesn't reach the same privacy level, but offers that feature in the application? And the overwhelming response, I think it was 70 or 80%, was that they wanted to have that feature available, even if it wasn't at the level of onion routing that we usually maintain in the application. So I think that was really the turning point for us. We had built this thing and we'd asked the community, and they kind of said, we want this earlier rather than later.
Perfect. Yeah, that community consultation was super valuable for us. Made the decision really easy, basically.
Yeah.
It was clear that everybody wanted it, that everybody understood the choice was being made, and there it is. There's the choice.
Well, and the other thing is, if you don't turn on calls, it doesn't degrade your experience of the application whatsoever. So if you're one of the users out there that really wants to wait for onion routed voice calls, you just don't turn on the feature, and it won't impact your privacy in any way. You'll still be able to use Session as you do normally day to day. So it's not one of those features where we're impacting our existing user base that just wants to use Session normally. It's just an additional feature that you can enable if you want to.
And for those users that are waiting, that do want to wait for onion routed calls,
yeah.
How is the Lokinet integration going?
So we worked pretty extensively over the kind of second quarters of this year to get liblokinet coming along. So it's gone pretty well, and the plan from here, because just to explain a little bit about liblokinet, the original way that we were going to implement Lokinet on mobile platforms was to use the native VPN APIs on each individual platform. So when you use private internet access or ExpressVPN or any of these VPN applications, they're essentially hooking into Apple or Android's VPN API, which allows traffic to flow through them. And Lokinet actually works in a similar way to that as well. It's very similar to a VPN where you're shoving all of your traffic over Lokinet. I think we investigated that quite extensively and thought it would be good for Lokinet to do that by itself, but if it was packaged with Session, that user experience of needing to run a VPN application while you're using Session, it's kind of a weird user experience, having a running VPN application. And we were also a little bit worried about whether we were going to be able to do that in the systems that have been provided, in the APIs that have been provided by Apple and Google. So we decided to go back to the drawing board and looked at an idea called liblokinet, which is essentially instead of having all of the traffic be pushed over, you can essentially create paths just inside of an application. So you'd integrate this library into Session, and then you can make calls to that library to build a path for you and send, X data over that path. You don't need to send all of the phone's data over that path. You can just select particular things. And we don't need to integrate with the VPN API for that, so it's a lot more flexible as well. So that is the plan now for integration onto mobile devices and also desktop as well. We want to start on desktop because it's probably going to be the easiest platform to integrate. So I expect kind of early next year, hopefully, that integration will kick off. And once we get a working version of Session Desktop with Lokinet, then we'll start to tackle, I think, with that knowledge, the mobile platforms, which are probably going to be a bit trickier.
And once that integration is done, obviously voice and video calls are the big feature that everybody is anticipating.
Yeah.
But can we just briefly chat about some of the other features that the Lokinet integration will actually enable in Session?
Yeah, so any type of data that's being sent in Session right now can essentially, with onion requests right now, can be sent over a Lokinet connection, and it can happen really simply as well. But it also allows us to open up our fields. So something we've talked about for a while is like peer-to-peer file transfers in the application. So being able to send your friend really large files that don't end up on the session file server, but are just sent to your friend peer-to-peer. And yeah, all of the functions in Session right now, like where you talk to a Session Open Group server or you talk to your Swarm to get new messages, all of those can happen over Lokinet as well. And onion requests, it's been really good for the last couple of years because it's allowed us to get onion routing into the application. But Lokinet really is more powerful, lower latency, higher bandwidth. It's just going to really open up the application to be able to do things faster. And more, and have more traffic going through the application. So something we're really excited for, and it's not just going to affect video and voice calls, it's going to affect the entire application. So
brilliant. Well, exciting times ahead for Session. And just a reminder for everybody watching, if you want to hop into the closed beta for Session calls, check out the blog in the description. That has all the steps that you need to opt in and get calling. So I think that's pretty much everything that we need to cover. Thank you very much, Key.
Thanks, Alex.
And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.